I was trained as a printmaker, I wasn't trained as a musician. When I was young, you couldn't do accordion as a serious instrument. There's a great debate on that on Radio 4, we won't go into that. Because the accordion wasn't taken seriously, it was kind of a token instrument in orchestras for a long time. So because it wasn't taken seriously as a classical instrument when I was 16, you had to have a first instrument, and this couldn't be my first instrument. So I wasn't great at singing, couldn't play the piano, couldn't do music. So I didn't. I just learned Irish music and played in pubs mostly. And so I did art, and I did graphic design, and I went into printmaking. And through doing art, this really reminds me of an angler painting. Is it the bather or something it's called, where you see a female form, the back, just sitting on the edge of the bar. And that's the first thing I thought of with this. And I love the textural marks that Naomi makes, and we found out recently that you've got a printmaking background as well.
Very much so.
And I was in Newcastle for quite a long time. I trained up in Leeds. I ended up teaching music in Newcastle, and you were doing your college days in Sunderland. So that's all.
Being the worst student in the world. So learning something.
Learning something. Well, you do.
About life.
You learn about life. Yeah, I spent most of my time in Irish pubs. That's what I did as well as a student. But anyway, but you still have that with you, and I still love that textural mark and the contrast thing, and just that whole idea of nocturne and this line here.
I know, I don't understand. I mean, I quite often don't understand what I'm actually doing, but I think that that's day and night, but also inside and outside. So this end part feels to me like a sort of large mirror, the frame of an ornate mirror or a picture. And I don't know, I love pattern, and pattern doesn't make any sense. So that feels like the interior and the daylight. And then for some reason, she's not in the interior in the daylight, she's outside in the garden in the night time.
And what that always reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever seen that Magritte painting of the big building.
Yes.
So the building is painted as if it's in daylight, but the background is at night. And you look at it, and you know, and it looks okay, because it's all very representational. And you think, there's something wrong with this picture. Then you realise that the building's in sunlight, but the background is moonlight and stars. And that's what that makes me think of. Also, sorry, I've been a bit of an art bore here, but there was I don't know if this is a true story, but anyway, it's a story I heard about Picasso, and one of his first drawing lessons, and he fell out, as he always did, with his tutor. It was a life drawing class, and the tutor wanted, you know, very great detail and proportion and all this stuff. So in protest, Picasso covered the whole piece of paper with black charcoal, and then worked back into it with an eraser. So you had this beautiful line drawing, but with a rubber in white on a black background, and completely blew everybody else away, of course, just to show that you could do that, you could work back, and that really reminds me of that white. So it's kind of surreal, and it's the attention to line. And also, the other thing I only learnt last year, because I had a part-time job at Bristol Museum, right? And this brilliant part-time job at Bristol Museum, the first job I had to do was £8 an hour, which was fine. But the first job was to look after the Leonardo da Vinci prints from the Queen. I mean, you're getting paid to do that. I mean, it's all about Christmas. So the thing I found out there, by looking at these Leonardo prints for like 6 hours a day, was that artists at that time never used an eraser. They never used a rubber. Because the whole point was to leave your mistakes in, to teach yourself where you went wrong. So you would actually just highlight or really put in bold what you wanted as a line, and any other lines were there when you were kind of trying to get it out. So you didn't have to be perfect in your line. It was fine to make lots of different lines, but the really bold lines were the lines that you wanted to be there. And it makes it almost into a moving image sometimes, and I like that. I like the fact we've got these lines and those lines.
Yeah, I do have lots of goes at getting things how I want.